I'm going to show you how I season my cast iron cookware. And this is whether I buy it from a store or if I'm restoring it, I do it the same way. Because even if you buy it from a store, it usually has a protective oily coating on it, and you need to get that off to ensure the best possible seasoning. Because take it from somebody who's tried to take shortcuts in the past, that you don't want to put in the effort and only halfway season your pot and think it's good, and then after a cook or two you have to go and redo it. I would much rather spend a little bit extra time doing it right in the beginning and never ever having to worry about it again. But washing the pot thoroughly is something that has to be done. And what I do is I actually wash it and rinse it twice. I want to get as much of that stuff off of there as possible. That way, when we put our oil on it for the seasoning, it has a nice clean surface to stick to and adhere to, and you're going to get that good smooth finish on it. Now, I'm not going to tell you that the way that I do it is, the only way, but I can tell you that the pots that I season this way, like I'm showing you right here, I have never ever had a problem with. I've never had to go back and re-season them. It was only when I try to take shortcuts and just do a real quick job when I've had any problems. But you're going to wash it thoroughly twice. You want to dry it good. I actually used to dry it on the stove to be sure all the water was out. I found that's really not necessary. Just drying it good with the towel will get it as dry as it needs to be to get ready for the seasoning. Now, as far as what I season it with, I just usually use whatever I have. Canola oil, vegetable oil, Crisco. I don't get fancy with the oils. It's just whatever I have on hand. And again, it's never been a problem. It's always done a great job. So, I don't have a certain recommendation on the oils. I also like to use shop towels. Just the kind of cloth shop towels you buy on a roll. And the reason I do that is because they tend to leave less lint than paper towels. You can also use just a regular cotton dish towel, and I've used those before. But a lot of times if I have the shop towels on hand, I'll use those. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a thin coat of oil on there. You don't want it too thick to where it's going to pool. You just want a thin coat to kind of get into even though the metal feels really smooth on a lot of especially the older pots, it's kind of porous, so you want that oil to soak in. So I'll do a couple coats of really thin oil just to get it kind of penetrated in there a good bit. And you want to be sure and get everything on your cookware. I pay special attention, of course, to the bottom and the sides of the pot, but you want to get the upper rim of the pot because that's another place where food will tend to settle when you're cooking. You want to be sure and get on the lid, the rim and the edge of the lid, because that's another place. If you saw the previous video I did, you saw spots where, particularly on the rim and the edge of the lid, where over time that food had really caked on, and that became kind of one of the problem areas to get clean. So like I said, you don't want too much oil, because we're going to do a total of 3 different bakes in the oven with the oil. So you don't want it too thick and you don't want it to pool. This really is just the initial application, because after we put this in for a little while, we're going to go with a second coat, and then we're going to go with a third coat. So don't put it too heavy, and don't forget things like the handle and, like I said, the upper edge of the rim of the pot. This particular piece, as I stated in the last video, I think it was made by the I think it's Birmingham Stove and Range Company, because they're one of the few manufacturers that I found that actually had these divots in the lid. Now, just to be sure that I get those properly, I'm going to go ahead and use a Q-tip and be sure and put a little oil in each one of those. And then I'm going to go back after I wipe the lid out, and I'm going to take another clean Q-tip and just try to get the excess oil out. And this may be overkill, but it took a minute, maybe 2 minutes to do it. And that way I'm sure that I have each little divot in there coated in oil, but not too much oil. That way it ensures that I'm never going to have to worry about little rust spots or anything coming up later on in those divots on the lid. Now when we put this in the oven, we're going to put it for 250 degrees, and we're going to sit the lid right side up, but we're going to sit the pot upside down in the oven. And this is after the first 30-minute segment at 250 degrees. You can already see it's getting a really nice kind of sheen on the pot where that oil is really soaking in, and it's coming out pretty good so far. We're going to go ahead and put our second coat of oil, and again we're going to put it upside down in the oven for 350 degrees for 30 minutes. You can now see it's even darker, and that oil is really getting soaked in and making that nice slick surface. It's time to coat it one more time. And this time we're going to go for 30 minutes at 400 degrees. And other people may have different opinions on it, but for me, this is definitely the way to go just to be sure that these pots are seasoned and cured as good as possible, and you're not going to have to mess with it again. And here we are, the final product. Now I'm going to do one more thing, even though technically this thing is ready to go. It's something that I've always done, and that is the first cook that I do. I'm going to cook either sausage or bacon or something really fatty like that. And you're going to see here, I'm going to cook these. This is just some roll sausage that we had in the freezer. And I'm going to cook it, basically I'm going to cook it to a crisp. I don't plan on eating these. I'll probably give them to the dogs. But what I want to happen here is all that oil and all that fat to come out of that meat. And like I said, this isn't something you have to do. It's just something I've always done. And it's going to give it just another layer of fat and oil to help coat that metal. And then here towards the end of the cooking, I'm going to be taking a paper towel and just kind of going over the sides of the pot, and particularly the top rim of the pot, with some of the oil from here. And after that, it's basically done. It's ready to use. It's technically was already ready to use. This is just my little extra step that I do. So be very careful if you do it like this, because the pot is hot. But that's how I do it, and that's how I've had excellent results over the years after I learned from doing things the wrong way, how to do it the right way. And we're ready to go. So I appreciate you watching this video. And if you want to see the other video before this where I did the whole restoration, it's kind of long, I know that, but I didn't want to cut a whole lot out because I wanted you to see just all the steps involved in doing a real cast iron restoration. So thanks for watching. I'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.